Good morning once again, friends. In 1981, a man by the name of Yossi Ginsberg became separated from his companions in an uncharted part of the Amazonian jungle in Bolivia. He was completely lost for 3 weeks and survived by scavenging any food that he could find, berries and fruit, birds' eggs, and even monkeys. He was found eventually by a search party organized by one of his friends. They found him just as they were beginning to give up. The whole story is told in a Netflix film called Jungle. Just imagine that, being completely lost, having to survive on your wits for weeks on end, not knowing whether you're going in the right direction, towards safety or away from it, not knowing whether you'll ever be rescued. That is not the condition that humanity finds itself in. We have not been dropped by God into an uncharted world without a map. Rather the reverse. We have been placed into a world made by God himself, so it's well known to him. He has the charts, and we have been given one of his maps to assist us. This is the way that Moses described our situation after he had been with the Lord on the top of Mount Sinai. He says, "What other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as the body of laws I am setting before you today?" God had revealed to Moses the moral and social laws by which we are to live and to conduct ourselves, so that we don't have to make it up as we go along, so that we don't have to live by our wits, so that we can be saved from the pain of repeatedly getting it wrong. In his compassion for us, God has given us guidance as to what is right and what is wrong. He's not abandoned us to survive as best we may. Part of that compassionate provision by God has been his Sabbaths. For some weeks we have been following a series of reflections on the way that God gets through to us. Well, here is one more method that he uses: the Sabbath day. This is his clear and specific command to us all. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. Now, one of our big problems with the Sabbath day is the legacy that we have from not so long ago. A legacy of this, one of God's principles, being badly implemented. There are still those who are able to remember seeing groups of youngsters on Aberystwyth prom on a Sunday afternoon, dressed in their best clothes, and not being allowed to play on the sand or swim in the sea, or even to buy an ice cream. Sunday was the day when you were stopped from doing anything that was fun. Now, that wasn't God's idea. His idea was to create space for us. In a world where we are under constant pressure to put food on the table for the family, pressure to provide for the needs of the children, pressure to get ahead in our studies or our career, it's so easy for us to be overwhelmed and to have no time left for what is truly important, time for God. So the Sabbath day is God's idea. It allows us to stop. And when we do, no one can accuse us of being lazy or of neglecting our responsibilities, or point to an unfinished to-do list. that can wait until Monday. The Sabbath allows us to pray, and no one can accuse us of being super spiritual, because that's the purpose of the day. The Sabbath day allows us to seek God in worship, and no one can accuse us of being over the top about our faith, because the Lord has set aside one day in 7 for precisely that purpose. And look again, it is only one day in 7. God's not asking for more than that. He knows that we have to live, that we have other responsibilities, but this is to be his time for the enrichment of our relationship with him. Don't let us miss the opportunities that this day gives us for church attendance, when we're allowed to go back to it, for personal prayer, for godly reading. There are 6 other days for all the other stuff, but this one is reserved for him. This is a special day when we deliberately and consciously open ourselves to the Lord and anticipate that he will share the day with us. Just as a married couple might keep a weekly date night, which is sacrosanct and just for the 2 of them alone, so this day is to be kept as a day for him. But God complains to the children of Israel that they have neglected his Sabbaths. He says it several times. It was a particular complaint of Ezekiel the prophet. You have despised my holy things and desecrated my Sabbaths. So what does he mean? That the people have had 52 Sabbaths in the past year and that they've not rested properly on any one of them? No, it's actually more serious than that. Because the Lord has given the children of Israel 4 different kinds of Sabbaths. Horrors. We haven't got to rest on Monday and Wednesday and Friday as well, have we? We'd never get anything done. No. There is to be another kind of Sabbath. This second Sabbath was the 7th year of rest for the land. The fields and orchards and vineyards are to have a sabbatical year. What grows may still be harvested and eaten, and the poor especially have freedom to benefit from it too. But the land is to lie fallow for 12 months. Instead of intensive farming and trying to squeeze the very last bit of production out of the land, it needs to be respected, given a chance to recover from repeated cultivation, and be allowed to breathe. This is a command from 3,500 years ago, but how contemporary is that? Who dares to say that the Bible is rubbish and irrelevant? In a world where we have created dust bowls, where desertification is of major concern, where productive land is being lost from over-cultivation, here is the Lord giving a command to his people all those years ago, saying, let the land rest. Then there was yet another Sabbath of a different kind, a third Sabbath. It was a Sabbath of debt relief. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts, commands the Lord. So if you're going to lend someone some money, bear in mind that it might not be long before the loan turns into a gift overnight. At the end of every 7 years, loans are to be cancelled. The idea? To eradicate poverty, to encourage equality, to avoid an era of super rich and super poor. God desires a just and equitable society. What mercy God is building into society through these laws. Not only were debts to be cancelled every 7 years within the family of God, for this applied specifically to the children of Israel, but also, if anyone had been so desperate for money that they had sold themselves into slavery in order to survive, they were to be freed in the 7th year. And they were not just to be shown an open door. They were not to leave empty-handed. Supply him liberally from your flock, your threshing floor, and winepress, commands the Lord. In other words, the freed slave is going to need a helping hand for a while in order to get himself established once again. What compassion! What forethought! Anyone might fall into difficult circumstances, and here's a plan made in advance to give them a helping hand to get up again. But there was yet one more kind of Sabbath, the 4th. It was to be declared when 7 times 7 years had passed. So on year 49, they were to proclaim a year of Jubilee, beginning in year 50. The intention was that all the land and property which had been sold and had changed hands in the intervening years was to be returned, free of charge, to the original owner or to their descendants. There was a twofold purpose. One was to eradicate the impoverishment of the people by the wealthy and the powerful. The other was to restrain the accumulative instincts of those who wanted to amass more and more. So the Lord says more strongly still, the land must not be sold permanently, because the land is mine. And you are but aliens and my tenants. Shouldn't that be our attitude to all of our property and possessions? They belong to the Lord and have been lent to us for a period of time. There isn't anything we own that we will not leave behind when we go. Property was always to be valued according to how many years remained before the year of Jubilee. And transactions would always take place knowing that this lay ahead. Once again, this Sabbath law was a demonstration of the compassionate heart of the Lord, who didn't want to see anyone disadvantaged or burdened unnecessarily. Is such a law practicable in today's more complicated society? Maybe not. But acts of compassion and generosity towards the disadvantaged are always right. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, writes King Solomon. So there they are then, the 4 Sabbaths that the Lord required from the children of Israel. Only one of them applies to us today, because it is enshrined in the 10 Commandments. But all 4 of these Sabbath laws have much to teach us. And here they are again. Firstly, the principle of 1 day of rest in each week. We would benefit from that. Secondly, the principle of responsible stewardship of the soil. Nature would benefit from that. Thirdly, the principle of the compassionate releasing of those who are in debt to us. The poor would benefit from that. Fourthly, the principle of a year of Jubilee, where property is returned. The whole of society would benefit from that. These were God's expectations of the children of Israel. And he says, through Ezekiel, you haven't been doing it. Let us, you and I, give these 4 Sabbaths some prayerful thought and see where they might apply to us today. Thank you for listening.